Hi guys, Michael Ingledew, TDW, and this week I want to talk about bringing out your dead. Now, those of you who are familiar with Monty Python and that famous sketch, Bring Out Your Dead, you'll know where I'm coming from. Those of you who have not seen it, go to YouTube, type in Bring Out Your Dead, and you'll find the video, the scene from Monty Python, where the old guy is moving down the old street or whatever it is, mud track, and picking up dead bodies. Something that I understand they did in the old Middle Ages, but obviously Monty Python turned it into a bit of a sketch. Now, so where am I coming at from this Monty Python sketch perspective? Well, on one of those rare occasions where I actually decided to frequent LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, I noticed that a discussion had been started by a software company on the suitability of a piece of software. Now, in this case, it happened to be Adobe FrameMaker, and these guys happen to be a competitor to Adobe FrameMaker. Now, we have also received a couple of questions in here to us here at TDW over the last few weeks on those guys that want to invest or look to purchase Adobe FrameMaker, but there's some FUD, and if you're familiar with sales terms, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, being thrown around as to FrameMaker's support, FrameMaker's longevity, its suitability, all of these kind of things. So, and this kind of brought me round to thinking about the Monty Python sketch, Bring Out Your Dead. Now, the reality is that I want to explain a little bit about the editor market and the landscape of the editor market. And then that will put into context why this constant FUD throwing around things like FrameMaker or other editors or other tools is constantly slung around. And in order to understand that, you need to understand the dynamics of the editor market, which is what I'm going to talk about. Now, this is an introduction to the article that we've written in this quarter's magazine. So we've put in a full article on Bring Out Your Dead in the magazine. So if you want to know how to get that, go to our website, create a free account, and you can, I think there's a special sign up link. You can get a discount off the magazine. But don't worry if you can't access these videos from your workplace. If you tell Claire when you subscribe that you would like a DVD, we will also include a DVD of all of these tutorials that we do once a quarter, and you can have access to them and play them at your place of work. So anyway, Bring Out Your Dead. Let's talk about bringing out your dead. So to bring out your dead, we need to think a little bit about the dynamics of the TD editor market. Now, software as a whole, as we know, worldwide, is worth many billions of dollars every year. We only have to look at the size of Apple. We only have to look at the size of Microsoft, Oracle, Adobe, these kind of guys. It's a massive, massive market. But when you look at the segment of editors in isolation, it's still a massive market, but it gets much, much smaller. So let me draw you a triangle, and going to the camera that's in the ceiling, you should be able to see now that I'm drawing I've drawn an upside down triangle. And thank you for the guy who sent in the comment saying about shaking my hands around. Please stop shaking your hands. I'm stopping shaking my hands. So the upside down triangle is broken down into market segments. So if we're going down this way, and if we look at level 1 at this area here, this is kind of your mass market. This is your Microsoft Word. This is your, I go down to the local PC store and I can buy a PC that has Microsoft Word installed. And these are kind of where your students are playing, maybe some educational, professors, or maybe, there are some serious engineering companies that use it too. Maybe those kind of your doctors, those kind of guys. It's a mass market and it's a cheap market. So the idea at this level is you sell lots and lots and you make lots and lots of money, which is what Microsoft Word does. Now at this level, L2, we move into the more specialized markets. We start looking at things like Adobe FrameMaker, PTC Editor, WebEx Editor, these guys who focus on structured editors. Okay, now these guys are the guys that kind of, they can span both L1 and L2, but their sweet spot really is L2. Okay, L2 is the more of the structured information market. Now, the market is smaller. It's not as wide and broad as the Microsoft Word market, which is why lots of software vendors have looked at how you can do S1000E in Word, how can you do Ditter in Word, all these kind of things, because they want to tap into that mass market at level 1. Now, so we got our structured editors down at L2. Now, if we look at L3, okay, and not the company, okay, because there is a company called L3, but this is nothing to do with them. L3 is more of your specialist tools. Okay, now these are your specialist tools in terms of applications that will probably sit on top of your FrameMakers, on top of your Epics, on top of your, there are some other ones out there, XMetal, those kind of things. And those applications sit on top of things like FrameMaker, Editor, and XMetal. So it will need the tools that are available in L2, but it is a application that sits on top of those particular tools. Now, what are these specialist tools? These specialist tools are things for creating things like ATA Spec 2200 data, your CMMs, your AMMs, your ACMMs, those kind of things, your S1000D data, your Ditter data, those tools that are guiding those big elephants, those big structured editing tools, because they are massive tools. And I've said before in other tutorials that we only, in our market, we only use a very small proportion of these editors and the functionality and the capability of these editors. But what these specialist companies do is they guide your big elephant into your more domain specific application of that data, which is L4. So L4 is where we play in the aerospace, defense and space sector. So this is where our editors are configured from the L2, L3 guys, and they're configured for our very specific domain purpose in aerospace, defense and space. So whether we're using S1000D 1.7 or whether we're using ATAI Spec 2200 or whatever it might be that you might be producing, this has been guided by those software companies. So what is the point here about bringing out the dead? Well, the problem here is that, as you can see, the triangle gets smaller, smaller and smaller until we hit the point. Now, these points, we could have one for aerospace, defense and space. We could have one for pharmaceutical. We could have one for motoring. We could have one for and some electronics company, whatever it might be. These points, when you are specializing tools, they are so small that the broader market at L1, the value of that market has been trimmed right down into the L4 bucket, if you like. Now, yes, tools in this area, as we get further and deep, so this is our niche. This is where we are in our niche area at L4. Now, when you're in your niche is where obviously price goes up a little bit. And this, my friends, is where we see lots of new entries. We see lots of people trying to move tools that might be at this level, trying to move them in at this level. Why? Because lower sales is still high value. Okay, so, but the reality is of the market, and the problem of the market is that the incumbents in this market, or the people that are already here at this level, they're established, and they have such a large footprint in the market that the only way that you can, I'm waving my hands, sorry, the only way that you can try and move them is by starting rumor or starting some kind of sales effort, we call it sales attacking, on a suitability of a tool or on the longevity of a tool. How much longer is it going to be about? Now, let me give you another great example here, okay? It's like when I started out authoring years and years ago, I started writing on Adobe FrameMaker 5.5.6. I then quickly moved into PTC Editor on, which was then Arbortext Editor or Arbortext Epic or something back in those days. And it was more of a hardcore structured editing tool. And then there was, when that editor first came into the market, there was lots of FUD being thrown around by the Arbortext editor users about the suitability of FrameMaker. Now, the reality was that you could achieve what you needed to achieve with either or both tools. Now, but one was vying for market position over somebody that was already well established in the market. So they throw loads of FUD around. It's not a native XML editor. It's not, lots of things like this, which are important, but not to your average author. Do they really care about that kind of stuff? So in general, in this market as well, you also, as authors, you tend to, I've been lucky, I've worked with lots of different tools and lots of editing tools, and some are really good, some are really bad, and some are kind of, well, they've disappeared now. Now, as authors, we tend to grow up with tools. And as we grow up with tools, we become familiar with tools, which makes it doubly hard for the sales guy who's trying to sell you the new way of doing things. They find it hard to move you from one area to another. And as budget holders and as tech data managers, we rely on our authors to tell us which tools they prefer. And in general, they prefer the tools that they grew up on. So in this case, we could be talking about guys that have started years ago on Adobe FrameMaker and have worked on Adobe FrameMaker forever. They can produce, they can do lots of great things. They know all the features, they know all the hidden secrets, and they know all the workarounds of any limitations. Now, so from a sales perspective, as I say, that makes it doubly hard to try and move you out of that entrenchment. So the only way that we can try and get you to move is by throwing some FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt around, and doing some messaging. So we could say, well, FrameMaker is going to be retired in the next couple of months. PTC are no longer interested in Editor. All of these are rubbish. And in general, they are started by guys trying to move into this sweet spot where there is money to be made. Now, there is money to be made because it's specialist, S1000D, DITA, ATAI spec, mil specs, whatever it might be. That is the same as the guys on Monty Python that say, walk around, bring out your dead, and one guy comes out with a body over his shoulder and he goes, oh, I'm not dead yet. And he goes, yes, you are. You're dead. You're dead. I'm getting rid of you. And he's trying to tell the guy with the cart that the guy that he's trying to put on his trolley is dead. And in the end, he hits him over the head and he then gets rid of the body for him. So that is the bring out your dead story of the editor market. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it enlightening. just always keep in mind that the further you go down this triangle, the tools get a little bit more expensive. It's not like your Microsoft Word that you can buy with your next version of a cheap laptop from PC World. It is very specialist, and you know, it takes specialist development tools that go into this, and years of development to get real good solid tools. And as a side note, I did ask Adobe the question. I said that we had a couple of requests in about, you know, could we clarify whether FrameMaker is around or whatever. I know the marketing guys there. I got in touch with them. They sent me a whole raft of links which we will make available on the members area that will show you that their tool is around, and it's around for a long time, as will be the PTC tools and some of the other tools that are kicking around. So I hope you found that useful. Share it amongst your colleagues and friends. Bring out your dead.